All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you all are doing good today. Hope you're all doing good. How you all doing? I had a video I wanted to check out here. This is by one of my favorite channels, Basketball Universe. And this one's called Michael Jordan versus 1995 Orlando Magic, his biggest black mark. So I wanted to address this because it seems like there's two things that a lot of Jordan haters point out. One is what happened in Boston in 1986 playoffs, where the Bulls lost to like one of the greatest teams of all time, if not the greatest. And two is in 95 when the Bulls lost to the Orlando Magic. And those of you who don't know the context, I guess you're going to get it because this is Jordan coming fresh out of baseball, fresh out of retirement, and coming back to try to lead the Bulls to a championship after not playing for over a year and a half. So it was kind of mission impossible, but it was exciting to see them even get into the playoffs and make a dent in the playoffs the way they did. But the haters basically just point this out as, yeah, this is a black mark, and I don't think this is at all. But let's check this out. So I'm going to link the original video down below in the description if you want to check it out without me, as always. And everybody else, please leave a like to this video, and it helps out a ton. Let's get to this.
One of the reasons why Michael Jordan is considered the greatest player of all time is because his career resume is as flawless as we've ever seen. However, it's not perfect. There were moments when he failed as a competitor. One of those moments was when he lost to the Orlando Magic in the 1995 semifinals. Some talking heads claim that defeat is as bad as any of the failures of LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, or any other NBA great. Is that factual?
I don't think so, because he played his heart out in that series, but he lost. Sometimes you lose, just like in any other sport, sometimes you lose. But we respect those who go out fighting. And that's the difference between what happened with like LeBron James is he didn't go out fighting. He went out hiding and choking and scared. Kobe, if we're talking, I'm curious what he means by the Kobe thing. Like, Kobe never shriveled up and choked. He lost before, and there's a couple times in the playoffs where I got to say he made some bad choices, but he actually showed up to play.
Did Michael Jordan underperform to his standards? And what was the real reason the Bulls lost that series? Let's start by looking at the numbers. He averaged 31 points on 48% shooting, 6.5 rebounds, 3.7 assists, and 2.5 steals per game.
Yeah.
His career regular season average is 30.1 points per game on 50% shooting. This was your standard Michael Jordan performance. But what about the eye test? Did he look like the Michael Jordan who won 3 straight titles before his retirement?
Oh, not at all. He had no legs. He was exhausted out there. He was about 15 to 20 pounds too skinny, and he couldn't jump, and he was slower than usual, and he had 0 handles. He couldn't dribble the ball worth crap at that time. So no, he looked like a guy who hadn't played basketball in a year and a half, and that was the truth.
He might not have been like that space shuttle.
When I say he looks like a guy who hasn't played basketball in a year and a half, this version of Michael Jordan will still destroy 99% of anybody who can touch a basketball. I mean, to the Jordan standard, he didn't look like the Jordan we knew at this time. There was little glimpses of him, but he still couldn't jump, and we all talked about it. It's like, dude, Jordan's got no lift.
Anderson was referring to in his younger years, but he had some impressive performances. Take Game 2. When he had 38 points on 57% shooting,
I'll take
7
that.
rebounds, 4 steals,
Yep.
4 blocks, and 3 assists. In the very next game, he goes for 40 points on 48% shooting, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Then in Game 5, he recorded 39 points on 54% shooting. He looked explosive in many stretches during these games. The numbers in the highlights say that he was great. But if we watch the actual games, we'll notice they had a hard time closing out games. In Game 1, he committed 2 costly turnovers on back-to-back possessions.
Yep.
Nick Anderson
That's the big one. That's the big one. his court awareness wasn't there.
Committed 2 costly turnovers on back-to-back possessions. Nick
There it is. Yeah, he wasn't paying any attention behind him. That was a big one. That was the end.
Anderson stole the ball from Michael, which led to a fast break dunk from Horace Grant. In the next possession, he tried to pass the ball to Scottie Pippen, but he couldn't control the pass. That
was a misread. And I never understood who was responsible for this.
Tried to pass the ball
because, Scottie was spotted up at the corner there, so Jordan was going to the corner. But also, I give some responsibility to Scottie, but also I got to give some responsibility to MJ because he should have seen the cut happening, but he didn't. It was a misread by both of them, which is very rare for these two.
Ball to Scottie Pippen, but he couldn't control the pass. It was a late game collapse that you weren't used to seeing with Jordan in the playoffs. Then in Game 3, the Bulls were outscored 30-20 in the fourth quarter, and they lost the lead that they had going into the final period. Then in Game 6, with their season on the line, the Bulls also couldn't keep their 8-point lead that they had with less than 3.5 minutes left in the game. However, the Bulls had a chance to force overtime, but Michael committed another costly turnover. He drove into the lane, but as O'Neal popped out, Jordan passed the ball and it was lost to the Magic. And that was the end of their season. This was so uncharacteristic of Michael. 2 playoff games where he committed turnovers in the final moments.
Yeah, it really was. It was hard to watch. We knew he was going to come back with a vengeance, though. And we knew that he did better than we thought he was going to do. Coming back in this situation, he was playing a lot better, and we figured he would. I was afraid he'd be a detriment to the team, but he actually led the team to almost beating the best team in the East that year. So I would say job well done. Haters gonna hate, but it was close.
Since those plays are the ones that stick out the most, it's easy to point the finger at him for their early playoff exit. However, that isn't the real reason why they lost. There are other factors to consider. For example,
one thing real quick is they would not have been at this point without Jordan, too. He's the whole reason they went this far against the Magic.
Let's take a look at the way Scottie Pippen performed that series. He averaged 19 points on 41% shooting, 9.7 rebounds, and 5.7 assists per game. His play was inconsistent. Remember in Game 1 when Jordan made those 2 turnovers? Well, Scottie had 7 points on 2 of 11 shooting.
Ouch.
Remember when we mentioned that Michael scored 39 points in Game 5? Well, Pippen had 10 points on 31% shooting.
Ouch.
It seemed like Jordan was trying to win these games by himself, and it was because he couldn't rely on his co-star to help him when he needed it the most. Pippen just wasn't playing up to par compared to his regular season averages. He needed to step up since the Bulls did not have a consistent third scoring option that could produce enough offense to defeat this team. They lost their third star in the offseason when Horace Grant decided to sign with the Orlando Magic. He was an extremely underrated piece for the 3 titles they won.
For sure.
And they lost him for nothing. In the previous year, he was an all-star, and he was selected to the All-NBA second-team defense. From an analytical standpoint, this player had a strong case to be considered a top 15 player in the league in 1994. With him and Scottie Pippen clicking, they won 55 games. But in 1995, the Bulls were 34-31 before Jordan returned from retirement.
Yep. That's something there you go. So that's the record. I've been wondering about this because I remember so clearly the Bulls were on pace to maybe not even make the playoffs. That was a real thing. And that's when Jordan came back and turned it around. Like I said, we're going against the number 1 team in the East and the Orlando Magic, who made it to the finals that season. The Bulls had no business this year competing against that Magic team. But with Michael Jordan, he did make it competitive. And yeah, they lost. Losing happens. Someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. But like I said, he did not choke. He didn't choke. I mean, you can make an argument that like Scotty choked a little, but I'm not even going to go there. No, the Magic were the better team that season, and it only lasted that 1 year. And then the Bulls were the better team by the next year.
The Bulls were 34-31 before Jordan returned from retirement, and they finished with 47 wins for the season.
Yeah.
They had lost their championship form. They also had a glaring weakness in their front line. That was going to present a problem when facing the most dominant big man of all time.
Yeah, Will Perdue and what was it, Big Bill Wennington at that point?
Shaquille O'Neal. In the
Or they did have Luke Longley. Okay. I think Will Perdue was still there that season though. He wasn't in there much.
regular season, they struggled against Orlando. They went 1-3 in their season series. But the Bulls had a plan to contain him. They decided to surround him with 2 to 3 defenders every time he touched the ball. They called it the Hack Pack. They had no choice but to do this, since players like Luke Longley,
there's Will Perdue right there. Okay.
Will Perdue, and Bill Wennington were just barbecue chicken for him.
Yeah, they were.
Phil Jackson was going to force someone else to beat them. As far as limiting O'Neal's scoring production, it worked. He averaged 24.3 points on 48% shooting for the series.
What was that percentage?
He averaged 24.3 points on 48% shooting.
We didn't stop him. Yeah, they didn't do that great of a job though. Still got 24 points and shot almost 500. Yeah. The best you can do against that version of Shaq, though, is to hold him to 24 points, I guess.
For the series. Let's not forget that he was a scoring champion in 95. He averaged 29.3 points on 58% shooting in the regular season.
58%.
But Shaq wasn't just a scorer. He was a willing passer who has proven throughout his career that he could pass off the double team. That led to 5 different Magic players that averaged nearly 15 points for the series. Horace Grant, Nick Anderson, and Dennis Scott all had big scoring games because their defenders were worried about double teaming O'Neal. No one was bigger than Horace Grant. He was deemed by Shaq as the world's greatest role player after the series, and Jordan called him their MVP as well. He averaged an impressive 18.5 points on 65% shooting. Aside from Horace, Dennis Scott had back-to-back 20-point games in games 5 and 6.
Yeah. Yep.
Then Nick Anderson had a 22-point performance in game 3. It was just obvious that the Orlando Magic were a better team.
Mm-hmm. And you got little Brian Shaw there too. Nobody even mentions him. But no, this team by far was better than the Bulls this year. By far. By far.
On the following postseason, just how much they needed a good low post defender to defeat the Magic.
Absolutely.
With the addition of Dennis Rodman, he was a strong enough defender to guard Shaq one-on-one, and the Bulls were able to contain their outside shooting in the 1996 Conference Finals. Nick Anderson averaged 8.3 points on 31% shooting, and Dennis Scott averaged 7.3 points on 27% shooting. They were completely shut down, and that was also thanks to the Bulls making Ron Harper a key piece of their team. He only played a total of 39 minutes in the 1995 series. They were using BJ Armstrong, who did not provide the same defensive versatility as Harper did.
Yeah, not even close.
But in the offseason, they received a blessing in disguise. BJ was lost to the Toronto Raptors in the expansion draft, and that allowed Chicago to fully unleash Ron. By doing that, they created one of the greatest defensive backcourts of all time.
100%.
The length and versatility of Harper, Jordan, and Pippen allowed them to switch off and defend post players without resorting to double teaming. With the improvements that they made on the roster, the Magic were no match for the Bulls in 96.
Yeah, by that point, Ron Harper offensively took a big step down as far as prime Ron Harper. But defensively, my God. Yeah, he was out there hounding the ball just like MJ was. Like that's why they won those championships, by the way. When you've got a starting lineup of 4 top defenders, Jordan, Pippen, Harper, and Rodman, that's how they won those championships. It wasn't offense. Jordan was the only consistent provider of that offense, of scoring. And everybody else, including Pippen and Harper, their scoring fluctuated like crazy. But what was consistent every single day was that defense. And they didn't have that in 95. They had the like all the weight offensively was on Jordan's shoulders. That was the same, but defensively, they just didn't have it anymore. They had a big hole on the point guard position with BJ, and then also by not having Dennis Rodman or Horace Grant there, it was a big hole in the paint. So they weren't dominating either the outside or the inside defensively.
But in 95, they had to rely on Jordan too much.
Yep.
And they did not have the right team to defend Shaq properly. You could say that they caught this team at the perfect time. They not only lost a huge piece of their dynasty run, but they had to play against them. In Michael's earlier years, he could just score 40 points a game to compensate for the team's lack of scoring options. But he was coming off a 21-month break from basketball, and he wasn't physically able to provide a historic scoring stretch just yet. They also caught the GOAT at the perfect time.
Yep.
It's fair to say that...
Look how skinny he is. just look how thin he is.
They also
look at that. Yeah. That's not what he looked like when he left in 93. That is not what he looked like. And then if you fast forward to what he looked like the next season, he bulked up like 15, 20 pounds.
The GOAT
muscle
at the perfect time. It's fair to say that Orlando beat this team fair and square. It's also fair to say that this playoff defeat is in no way a black mark in Jordan's legacy.
Agreed.
The numbers say he played great. In fact, you could say he exceeded expectations if we take into consideration his 21-month absence from the game. If only he played a little better down the stretch of some of those games, and maybe he could have beaten this team. But what about you all? Do you think this series should count against Michael? Do you blame him for the loss? Or why do you think the Magic beat this team? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, interesting video. I agree with all the takes here too, because I've always said it, like, that season was not a stain on the legacy, in my opinion. This is my opinion, because I watched it all happen live, and we all knew the Bulls had no business competing against this Orlando Magic team. They had no business, and the only reason they were competing with them was by leaning on Michael Jordan. So Jordan not only didn't choke, he was taken. He took on more of a burden that season than he ever did, except for maybe when it was like the early 80s when the whole team revolved around him. But during their three-peat run, the Bulls didn't rely on him this much. Like, they really leaned on him, and he wasn't ready for that task. He wasn't ready until next season, and that's why he got so prepared. And they came back to having, in 96, 95, 96, to having the best team of all time, because he came back ready. But he wasn't ready for this one. In fact, his trainer was telling him, don't do it. Just come back next season. We'll get your body ready for basketball again, because he just got into baseball shape. He was like, let's get your body back into basketball shape, and then you'll come back and kick some ass next year. But, MJ, he's like, nope, let's do it. Fuck it. Let's try it. And this is what happened. But he did give them a fighting chance. Now, if they would have beat the Orlando Magic, I don't think for a second they would have beat the Bulls would have actually beat Hakeem Olajuwon and the Houston Rockets. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they were beating that team. Now, if we took 1 year in the future, the 95-96 Bulls team, yeah, I think they would beat that. I think they would definitely beat the Houston Rockets at that point. But this season, when Jordan was just coming back, they didn't have Dennis Rodman. Nobody really knew what was going on. Nobody really knew their roles, because this was a sudden addition to their team. There's no way. They had no business being in the finals or anything like that. But anyways, I don't consider this a stain. Same way I don't consider 86 playoffs a stain against Boston. I really don't. You lose sometimes. But no one was choking here. And I'll also say the next year when they swept Orlando, Orlando didn't choke. The Bulls dominated them. And in this series, the Magic dominated the Bulls. That's just the way sports goes. All right, everybody, I'm out of here. I'll see you tonight for the After Dark episode. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the comments down below. Please leave this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. And No, my dog says so too. She agrees. She says subscribe. Huh. Now she's shy. All right, everybody. I'm out of here. I'll see you tonight. Peace out.